All right. Is this thing hot? Is it on? I think it's on. Guys, head on over to the website, www.johnbartoloshow.com. Take a look at our list of sponsors and support them by buying something. So tonight, I'm joined by Tony, Suresh, Matt, and Johnny that are all here with us tonight. Some of John's best friends, and we also have some other people here in the studio with us as well. Before we kind of get into it, it's going to be a heavy night. Hopefully one full of smiles and laughs and not a whole lot of tears, because John would probably insult us if anybody cried. So that said, we're going to start by thanking all the sponsors that helped us get here to this day, that helped us build this fabulous studio and pay for all the little things along the way, sponsor events, whatever. And if you guys don't know who I am, I'm Rory. I was John's producer for like the last 2.5 years, and also our studio engineer here. And we also got Marcy with us, who did all of our graphics design, did all of our photography, event planning, and stuff like that. We had Rishi helping us out with the clips. We had Shoba making show notes for us. And we had Stephanie doing a bunch of social videos. Derek did our website for us. Dave did oddball things for us around here as well. I'm sure there's a couple people I'm forgetting that were a part of the team, and I apologize now in advance. So I know there's several of us out there that helped him, and I wish I could thank everybody, on this list, but just getting to who I can and who I can remember off the top of my head. So there's a lot of people that did help us. So if you guys didn't know or didn't read online, basically it was one of his last wishes that we do a last show. And to quote him exactly, for the note that he left us was, I'm sorry, I'm losing my spot here already. So basically, to quote him, he basically said, do one final show, tell everybody what I was trying to do here. I was trying to introduce interesting people to the world, which it didn't matter if you weren't that well known or you were really well known. If John thought you were an interesting person, you had a story to share or something to share with the world, he brought you on the show. Simple as that. So I ask everybody out there, just help carry on his message. Everything that he talked about on the show, everything that he was about, helping everybody around him, carry it on, pay it forward. So I'm going to go ahead and read down the list of all the sponsors that helped us now, because when we started this place, it was basically a plastic table in here with a couple cheap Rode microphones and a laptop. And now it's basically adult Disneyland, even though some of the things have been removed off the wall and whatnot. But to start it out, John was at UFC that night, and anybody who was there, from one of the first responders, doctors, EMTs, friends, family, UFC staff, obviously deserve a big thank you for being there for him and doing what they could to help save his life. I'm sure that wasn't an easy place to be, being with an event, thousands of people and whatnot. And we just want to give our sincerest thanks to anybody that was there that helped and tried to save his life that night. For starters, he loved the UFC. He loved all the fighters. He loved the brand itself. He loved Dana and everything it was about. And he had a lot of close friends there. Bo, Heather, Claudia, just to name a couple of them. And everybody else from the organization that ever met with him or did anything for us at the show, we appreciate it. So with that being said, I'm going to go down our long list of sponsors of anybody who helped us out over the last couple of years with anything all whatsoever. And I just ask you bear with me a little bit because, they deserve a mention just because of everything they did. Whether it was just giving advice, buying something for the studio, paid sponsorship, providing some product or something that we could give out to a guest, whatever it was that you did that helped, you definitely deserve a thank you. And if I forget you on this list, I apologize. But to start it off, Tom at Securite actually came in just about a month or so ago and actually built all these new walls, provided some new cabinets and stuff like that. We completely redid the studio with his help. And other people, Suresh showed up even and built a bar that's behind us. That's really nice. Matt Orvin, of course, who's also with us, donated a ton of lights all the time, donated his time and other things, was a sponsor of the show for a very long time. Scott at Volkortson donated a bunch of firearms to us, as well as he was a sponsor of the show. He deserves a mention for sure. And Bruce at BLK Water and Legendary Foods, he always provided snacks, food, water, kept us hydrated, kept us snacking all the time. Rhino Metals, they provided all these nice tables, the desks we have, the bar that we were using on the other side. Amazing quality furniture. We had Tom and Hannah over at Sig Sauer. He really looked up to Tom Taylor and everything he was doing. He loved Hannah like a sister. Brady at Wright Optics down in my hometown, Tucson. Pulsar Thermals provided a bunch of optics as well as the sponsors of the show. Vortex Optics, QU Apparel, Breakthrough Clean, Blackwater Ammunition, Galco Leather Holsters, Dano at Howlerhead Whiskey, which we're all sipping on tonight. Evan and Britton over at the Warrior Poet Network. If you didn't know, we were broadcasted on the Warrior Poet Network. Bagel Mania, they provided a lot of good food for us over the years, and I'm particularly fond of their strawberry shortbread cookies. And Kinsey's Optics, Microtech Knives. A lot of times our guests would come in and see these knives, and we'd be more than happy to give one out to them, and they were just amazed at the quality. U.S. Law Shield was a newer sponsor of ours. Knuckle Sammy's. And then Richard Angstead Arms, who was just on the show not too long ago. Steve and Judy have done not only amazing things for the show, but they're also still helping out to this day with everything that's going on. They deserve a big shout out as well. And their pink box donuts are the best you'll have in town. And if you go at midnight when they make them, that's when they're the best. Mike over at Jesse Ray's Barbecue provided plenty of barbecue for us over the years. Jeremy at Dark Alliance Firearms, who's with us, did a bunch of stuff for us, provided a bunch of weapons as well for the wall. If you've ever seen any of the guns that we have on the wall that have all the fancy designs and all the Cerakote, Jeremy's the artist of that one. Chris over at Range 702 did multiple things for us over the years, held events, and, we were able to take people over there all the time, take them shooting and whatnot, in addition to other things. David Mission First Tactical, Coltac, Gallotech, and I don't know who else maybe I'm missing off that list, but that's a general consensus. And, guys, if you have any interest in any of those brands, anything they do, please, go buy something like John would say. Support them because, they supported us and they support other things like this all the time. So I also want to give a special shout out to all the guests we had over the years. We had I think it was close to, 500 shows we were going on. What's that? 446. 446. We're on the verge of 500 shows. We would have probably had 500 shows in the next month or two with the guest list we had planned. And the guests all deserve a special shout out for that one because you guys came on the show. You guys told your interesting stories, even if they weren't very aligned with everybody's views or anything like that. And you guys weren't afraid to be candid with us. And John was able to pull out things in some of those people that we never thought we'd ever hear leave their mouth. And he had a special talent for that. And it was like magic watching him speak to these people in person, not only in the green room back there, but also on the show itself. And there was so many good laughs and smiles we've had over the years that it's just hard to put it all into perspective. I want to give a special shout out to the Geeks and Gamers crew. They put together a very heartfelt tribute the other night, and it was very touching. And John loved those guys, all of them. And we hope to see him in the next couple days and reconnect a little bit with them. He really cherished all the friendships he had with you guys, and it was really something special to him. And I remember exactly how excited he was about that relationship. And it was a blast when you guys are here, and we ain't got nothing but love for you guys. So with that said, we got some of John's best friends in the building, and I know everybody's got a story to tell about him, got awesome memories to share about him. And I'm going to turn it over to them, and I'm going to go take my usual spot behind the board. So with that said, I'm going to relinquish John's chair and give it to one of his best friends, Tony Sentimont.
John loved these freaking earmuffs. So it's good to wear them. I always hated wearing them, but he always told me you had to wear them. I was like, oh, do I have to wear them? We always get into an argument about it before we did our show. I promised that I wasn't gonna cry. But bear with me a little bit. if you guys knew John, you know that me and him were best friends. For a very long time. So it's going to be a little hard for me, and I hope you guys just bear with me a little bit. Matt.
Yeah, let me say something. If it weren't for John, the four of us wouldn't have met, and we probably wouldn't have been, as close and friendly as we are. And that was kind of John's gift. It was his generosity, and he would always try and uplift other people. He always gave, and he made it a point to introduce people to each other. He said, you got to talk to this guy, or, hey, you need to talk to Tony, you need to talk to John or whomever. And he was just a massive, massive Rolodex. He had touched hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people in the 4 years. I think he started this in 2018, in the 4 short years, and even before, just an amazing person, and nothing but love.
Yeah,
and I think that's a great opening, and it really speaks as to who John was, and what he wanted to do. He just wanted to help everybody else.
John was a very hard character. If you knew John, he was fucking abrasive, super abrasive person. He was your typical Boston guy. Never held any punches. No. Pretty much told you what he felt. I've been in meetings with multi-million-dollar companies with him, and he didn't care what you were worth or how much your company was worth. And he would tell them, you don't know what the fuck you're doing, or and I've been in those meetings where I wanted to crawl under a table and hide. But one thing for sure was his whole thing was loyalty. He was the most loyal friend.
He was. If you knew John, you were in. He would do anything for you.
He would. He would.
And people say, give you the shirt off his back. He would. Yeah. I was short a shirt one day, and he just, here. I mean, John's 20 times the size of I am, but fucking, I'm gonna wear it anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, that was when he was like 260.
Yeah, big boy. Yeah. But that's what he would do. It's just the massive heart and the generosity. I can't say it enough.
Yeah.
He put everybody else first.
He did. We started the company. We started the industry, the 2A industry and the tactical industry together, probably about 10 years ago. And we met on Instagram. We talked for a little while, and then he came and he trained with me. And when he came and trained with me, he was still powerlifting at the time, and he was a big boy. He was doing a lot of bodybuilding. And he came in, and he was about 265 pounds. And he had never had the heat of Miami, Florida before, And we did a little bit of training. It wasn't nothing too crazy. It was me, him, Diego, and actually the pictures up here. And after about 10 minutes in, and he was sweating, I looked behind me. I was doing my drill, and I looked behind me, and he was gone. So I went looking around for him, and I couldn't find him. And then next thing you know, I checked his car. His car was turned on, and guess what? He was doing a John Bartolo break. He was in the car getting some AC for about 15 minutes. So we called that the Bartolo break from that day forward. Whenever we took a break, hey, we're taking a Bartolo break. And we were best friends ever after that. We both went through a very hard time in the beginning. We caught a lot of hate, a lot of trolls, and we fought it together. And today we're here, and he built a successful business.
He did.
And I was there through his lows and through his highs, and we always stood by each other. So I felt everything he ever went through in the last decade. So it's hard for me.
John gave a ton, and if he was very, very loyal, as we've said, and he expected that back. And it was very easy to be as loyal to John.
Yeah,
he earned it and he deserved it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We talked earlier about 2010, 12, whatever it was, and that's kind of when I first met him around the same time. And we'd shared some of these stories a little bit earlier, and over the past couple of days when we've been out here, the first time I met him, he came out of nowhere. He literally burst. When I say burst, he burst onto the scene. Nobody knew who this guy was. He said, big guy, 250, 260, just a monster. And he was loud. You know, John was loud, and you couldn't ignore him.
No, you couldn't.
He was a force even when he was a nobody.
Yeah.
And he was up in New Hampshire. We went to live for your die shoots, and you know, he couldn't really shoot well at that point. But he was just there. He was a presence, and you know, he was polarizing too. Either you know, you liked him or you didn't. But those of us who knew him well loved him.
Yeah.
Loved him.
One thing that I always respected about John, a lot of people always talked a lot of shit, right? And he always put his money where his mouth was. The guy had probably more certificates than I did when it came to tactical training.
There's a book around somewhere, I think.
Yeah.
I think you have it.
He probably has easily 30 or 40 certs, without a question.
Right.
With all the training that he did, because he knew he wanted to get better. And he was just a smart guy. Whenever I had a question about anything, I always came to him or whatever. And you know, there's a lot of people that talk a lot but don't do much. John was usually the opposite. You know what I'm saying?
If he wanted something, he went after it. And
Absolutely.
And he was never satisfied. He'd keep going and going and going. And, you know, one other thing I think a lot of people don't know about him, as you said, he's a very, very bright man. He read a lot.
Yes.
He dug in, and you know, if you didn't know, he would become an expert.
Absolutely. One thing a lot of people didn't know, fun fact about John, was he was one hell of a sprinter. Fast. He was a fast guy. I know he played some football, and he back in the day when we had one of my classes, he came to one of my courses. He challenged Diego, one of my co-instructors, for a sprint. Remember that, Jonathan? Yeah. And Diego was like, bullshit, there's no way you can beat me. You know, and John was definitely, he's had to be in a 240, 235, 240. And he smoked Diego. He smoked him. And I told Diego, I go, hey, he's fast. He's fast. 'Cause I had sprinted with John before. Yeah. He wasn't very good laterally, but he could take, I mean, he had a really good start. And he was a fast individual. He was very quick on his feet, you know, and he was always very proud of that. He would always like, oh, well, I bet you whatever you want to bet. I bet you I could beat you on the start. Yeah. And he was right. He won almost every time. That's a fun fact that most people don't know about him. You know, how you doing over there, Suresh? I see you kind of quiet. I want you to talk a little bit because I'm done crying. You know.
Yeah. We'll ask Suresh a question. If John had to pick, would he take the cereal or would he take the donuts?
The sugar cereal. Yeah, the sugar cereal was a big thing. I think you know, we laugh about it. You know. Those of you who knew John behind the scene, you know, we grew up very similar. Yeah, you know, a little bit of rough Northeast upbringing, and I think we both grew up with that a lot. We shared a lot of how we grew up, and John had a pretty rough upbringing. A lot of people don't know about that, but we had that in common, and we'd share that a lot. And little things that came out in John's life were similar to things that came out of my life. And you know, you see it when people get older, there's certain things that are important to them, and sometimes people will laugh and joke and tease, but maybe that's important to them because they didn't have it when they were younger, and they wanted to make sure that they had it when they were older. And not only that they had it, they wanted to make sure that the people that were around them, that they cared about, had it too. And that was something that John was always focused on, making sure that the people around him had what they needed. Sometimes they could be strangers. Sometimes they could be, you know, good friends. Sometimes business associates. But when you grow up in a scarcity situation, you want to make sure that you always have when you get older. And what people didn't know about John, you know, he was, as Tony said, abrasive on the podcast. He rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in the industry, but that was very intentional. That was not I was very strategic. John was very surgical about how he spoke and who he addressed. And when he said something, he knew who was going to be listening, and he knew the reaction that it would get. And it got to the point where people couldn't ignore him. And one of the things that a lot of people don't know about him was he was one of the most giving people. You wouldn't know it by listening to him on the show sometimes. But he was the guy that whenever we went out to dinner, it didn't matter, you know, it didn't matter where we were, how expensive the restaurant. He'd always get an extra entree. And at first I'm like, man, this guy's fat. He likes to eat a lot of food. And he'd always like ended up giving it to some like homeless person around the corner. He noticed, a lot of times we don't notice those people who are down and out, people are homeless, people are struggling. But John and I came from that, so we noticed it. And he always did things like that. And that was the kind of person he was. He would buy the meal for the homeless person. And then for his friends, he would give an hour, 2 hours of his time to help build a brand, help build their company, help them become successful. And I would listen to him speak about everyone at this table. And he might not have said it to them, but he was so proud of them. And he was so proud to help. And he never, ever, ever asked for anything in return. The guy did so much for me. I started in my garage with a sewing machine from the garbage. And I built a company to a multi-million-dollar brand. And a lot of that was because of the people he introduced me to. Him, by himself. And he had faith in me when I didn't even have faith in me. He gave me direction. Told me what to do. Told me what not to do. Introduced me to people. He said, this crazy guy down in Miami, he's jumping over cars and shooting shit. You gotta meet him. He's a good guy. And that's what I want people to know about him. I want people to know just how big his heart was.
He did things because he wanted to, not because
Yeah, at the end of the day, yeah. Absolutely.
It was about everybody.
He would always talk about we were all, and he would talk about us. We were all in the same car. It didn't matter who was driving the car. We were all going to the same place. Mm-hmm. That was one of his biggest things. We always talked about how people was always tearing everybody else down, or people would tear each other down trying to get to the top, one of our biggest, loyalty-wise, one of our biggest good things that we had in our group, in the group that we always held our tight family, was the fact that we always supported each other in getting to the same place, right? Trying to make it become successful, be getting better, and we would always talk about it on the phone. It was like, these people have no idea what they're doing. Doesn't matter who's driving the car. Everybody's in the car and everybody's going to the same place. We're all getting better, and we're going to become successful, and we're going to make a lot of money, and all that type of stuff. And we would always talk about it, over the years. Definitely something to show about him. He always tried to make everyone around him successful. That was definitely a huge thing for him. And always willing to help whoever came and came on the show, or anybody that he could reach out and touch. And a lot of people didn't know that about John. A lot of people would only see or hear him, and they didn't know him. It's a big difference,
who he was on the air sometimes, and listen, he stirred the pot.
100%,
all day
100%.
long, right? You know what I'm talking about. But that was John's persona. That wasn't necessarily John. We've all kind of shared some stories.
Well, John, you know what it was, man? I think John was very hard on the outside. He was a hardcore, Boston typical hard ass, and he wasn't afraid to hey, it is what it is, right?
Right.
But once you became part of his family, then he was just mush. He acted tough. It was he was soft, and I think once you get to know him, you realize that, right? And it takes a little bit of time to get past that his hard ass persona. But once you do, then you realize, oh man, this guy is he's incredible, and that's what he was. As much of an asshole as he was, because it was a 50-50, you know what I'm saying? It was and I remember, Suresh, when he first met you and he talked to me about you, he was like, yeah, this guy, he owns this, he's started this company called 221 Be Tactical, and he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, but we're going to help him and he's going to be successful. That's what he told me. He goes, hey, I'm going to tell him to come to your class. He wants to train under you. He wants to learn some stuff. He's a cop. I think he was still a police officer at that time. He's a police officer, and we got to help him out. He's a good guy. He's got a lot of potential. And I'm like, all right, let's bring him to me. Let's see what he's got. And then a few classes later, couple herniated discs from carrying a heavy ass shit. Yeah. You proved yourself to him and to me and to everybody. Yeah. Oh man. I think I have to laugh, guys, because if I don't laugh, I'm gonna fucking cry. Yeah. So I try to make the light of it the best as I can. It's been a rough 2 weeks for everybody here. And we're trying our best to keep composure.
I think one of the things that is important to share with everyone right now is a lot of us live our lives in a way that's really not who we are. We go about our everyday lives maybe not saying the things we really feel like saying, maybe not really doing the things we really feel like doing. And, before you know it, in an instant, we can be gone. And I think that, I think about John's life, and he was taken way too soon. But I think back, and I can't imagine that guy saying, man, I lived a life for someone else. I didn't do what I wanted to do. I didn't say what. That was exactly how John lived. He said what was on his mind, whether it was the right time or place to say it. He said what was on his mind. He dressed the way he wanted to dress. He did what he wanted to do. And he lived the life that he spoke. And
God knows we made fun of him for some of the ways he dressed, some of the things he did.
Hey, the tracksuits.
And he just didn't care. He just didn't care. He was being himself, living his life. And a lot of people can learn from that. And I think a lot of people that are watching this now, that are going to watch us down the road, and all of us sitting at this table, life is short. Tomorrow's not guaranteed. So to live a life for, what this person may think about you or that person and all that bullshit. John never did that. He just didn't care. He just lived his life. And I'm so glad he did, thinking back, because there's no other way to live.
I don't think he had a lot of regrets.
No.
Not especially these last 2 years. He did what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
He helped who he wanted to help, talked to who he wanted to talk to. He didn't do anything that he didn't want to do.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's beautiful. That's like, we should all learn from that. And I think John would want us to, in some way, emulate that and carry that on in our lives. He was 40 years old and he was taken from us. And there are people watching this that are over 40, and there's people watching this who are maybe not quite 40 yet. But the lesson from that is, stop living the lie that you might be living. Do what you want to do. Say what you want to say. Don't be so afraid. John didn't care what people said about him. he would say what he wanted to say. He didn't care what people said about him. He was just saying and doing, and like Rory said, living that life. And I think we could all learn from that and take a page from that book. I know I sure am.
Some of these are, I think, really important stories.
No, absolutely. I honestly think he ended up finally settling in with Lacey and his baby boy that he was born a month ago, Teddy. He finally reached a point in his life where he was really happy.
This was his calling.
Yeah, absolutely.
John
He had everything
never
he ever
make it
wanted.
in the corporate world.
Yeah.
No way. But
Yeah.
this is it.
Everything needed.
Yeah. I remember when he started talking to me about going on his own, and he lived in Miami with me for about a month and change, and we sat down and we talked about it, and he asked me, he's like, what do you think? Do you think I should start the podcast, work it on my own, just be my own boss? And and I told him I when I left police work in 2016, it was the scariest thing I ever did in my life, and it was the best choice I ever made. So I told him, I said, you can do this. I told him, you can do this. And next thing you know, he's on his way over here to Vegas, and he started it working for another company, and then he ended up building his entire brand. This entire studio that you see here is probably the best studio in the country. When it comes to podcasting, almost 500 shows, which is got to be some kind of freaking record, as long as he's been doing the podcast, his own podcast, right? The John Bartolo show, because he also did podcasting before the John Bartolo show.
Years ago. He's well over 500.
Yeah, for sure. Because he did it with 2 other companies as well, where he was doing podcasting. And definitely, he got to the top of that mountain. He really did at the end of it.
And that's his drive. Like I said, when he wanted something, he
100%. He wouldn't stop. It
was infectious.
Yeah. It was almost annoying.
Yeah, one of my favorite things that John used to say was if somebody's in a room interviewing somebody for a marketing position, was the only question I want to hear is, call the most important person in your Rolodex. And when I think about his podcasts, every single one that he did, it is not easy to get that good of a guest list on a podcast.
Oh, absolutely not.
That is not easy, and no one would say no to John.
No.
Nobody would say no to John.
He wouldn't let him.
And I think that's kind of one of his biggest things is his Rolodex he would talk about, and that's really just John knew everybody.
Yeah. I would say, and definitely, if it came down to like the UFC and the two-way community and the fitness community, I mean, there is nobody that had better connections and a bigger Rolodex than John Bartolo. Absolutely not. John knew at least someone in every single major manufacturer. And I don't think there is anybody at the UFC Institute that doesn't know who John Bartolo was. Nope. I mean, he lived at that place, Yeah. And all the fighters, they loved him. And Dana White was really good friends with Dana White as well. And he was very proud of that. And just everything that he accomplished, other than obviously his son, it's just, it was honorable to know him. It really was.
And his relationships with the UFC, but John always wanted, and what he was doing with the podcast was branching communities, and that's what he's been doing since Tony, you and him got into the business.
Yeah.
First it started with the fitness community, and the UFC. Recently with the Geeks and Gamers,
with the gaming,
he's got the cards, and he's had people on.
Oh yeah. And well, what a lot of people didn't know, Jonathan, until recently, probably was, John's always been a nerd. Yeah. John is as hard as as a hard ass as he is, right?
Secret nerd.
Yeah, he's always been a secret nerd, and he loves the baseball cards. He loves the comics. He loves the movies. I mean, you got Die Hard here. If I could tell you how many times I had to hear about Die Hard and Bruce Willis and how it was the best movie ever in the history of movies, which I agree with him. It's definitely top 4 or 5 for me. Between that and Alien, those 2 movies for him were like the most iconic movies of all time. And you get that, and then you get him with the Star Wars, and you get him with this, and when you get him with that, John was a collector, man, and he's one of those guys that just loves all the collections of whatever it was, you know. It was crazy.
Lisa, I owe you an apology. I'm going to do this on air. I fed John's addiction of 80s movies, and I'm sorry that he quoted every 80s movie possible. And Aliens, Halloween was up there. Beverly Hills Cop was up there.
Yes.
Every Rocky movie.
Yep.
80s music too. I mean, I think I'm the oldest guy here. John was born in the wrong decade.
Yeah.
He absolutely was. I mean, I'm a big fan of the 80s music. I know a lot, but I think he beat me a little bit.
John was a freaking machine when it came to those things, man.
Yep.
He was a machine. He could quote everything. It was like, I just could, half the time I was like, bro, how do you remember all? He's like, I don't know. I just remember.
Sports stats.
The sports stats.
Stats. For a little while, him and I were doing this, this app called Stereo, and we would just talk sports on it, and just him and I, we'd get on and we'd chat, and he would break out stats, and the whole time, you can't see us because you just see our little characters and you hear our voices. And I was on my iPad because I had to look things up, and he was in his car driving, and he was spitting out stats. And I was like, well, I was like, yeah. So I don't know what year that was, and he was like, oh, that was in '83, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, it was in '83, and he just knew it, and he's like, oh, no, that was not that year. No, he got drafted in the '84 draft. It was incredible. Yeah. It was incredible that he had that almost like savant thing about him that, once again, all the people who watch the podcast would have no idea about that. You just watch his stories, and I was the recipient of the brunt of some of his jokes with Beverly Hill Cops and things like that. He's like, when 221B Tactical rolls into town. But he was very. It's so weird. He had no ego about this stuff. Like, he got this relationship with the UFC, and I think everyone at this table knows he immediately tried to bring all of us into the UFC and share that experience and share that, inviting us to fights, introducing us to people at the UFC, introducing me to someone. Now we're working with the UFC, and he didn't want to hold it, and he could have very well held it to himself and kept it to himself, but he wanted to share it. And there was like how many pictures here around of us all in the octagon, taking pictures in the octagon with Dana and at the fights, and him inviting us to the fights, through the graciousness of Dana and Brian. And he wanted to share all that with us. A lot of things that people didn't really know about John in the background, and he didn't want to keep that to himself. He wanted to share that joy and that experience with us, and then not only share it, give us a piece of it. And I was kind of in my mind thinking he didn't even quite have a piece of it yet, but he didn't care. He just wanted us. How can I get you in the door and you benefit? How can I get you in the door and maybe you build a relationship and get a contract with them? And you look at that, and most people in life are just not like that. They get an opportunity to get in a door like that, and they just go in, and they just hope no one comes in behind them, and they just want it all for themselves. And man, John never wanted that. He wanted it all. Like you said, the car. We're all in the same car. We're all going to the same place, and that was just an incredible thing about him. And he had so much joy. The only greater joy I ever saw on his face, and the only other greater joy that I ever heard in his voice was when he told me about Teddy being born.
Yeah.
He that day he instantly turned into a different person. I didn't hear a joy in his voice like that ever before. It made me so happy to hear that joy in his voice. I knew he was complete. And he was content. And all the guns and all the, UFC and bodybuilding and, powerlifting awards and all that crap that he would talk about. He never talked about anything with such joy in his voice as when he was talking about that baby.
The picture said all too, the biggest smile on his face. Like nothing you've ever seen John smile like before.
Never seen him smile like that before.
Yeah, when
We all got texts that day.
he told me about Teddy, he called me and he's like, listen, sit down, calm down. You're going to want to throw some baby shower or something. The kid's here.
I got a story about that.
Don't throw a party. Don't go crazy. Calm down.
So I'll tell a story real quick. He swore up and down to me that he was not going to go to the baby shower. He was like, the baby shower is for women. He's like, we don't go to the baby shower. I'm like, you're the dad. You have to go to the baby shower. And I'm not going. And then as all these memorial pics start flowing in, I see a picture of him and Lacey at the baby shower. And I'm like, that bastard. He went to the baby shower.
All talk. It was all talk. All hard ass.
To add on to what you were saying, Suresh and Lacey, I think we shared this with you. John was taking pictures of Teddy 2 minutes after he was born. We were getting all the pictures.
Oh yeah,
like real time.
Yeah,
and he was absolutely so proud of Teddy.
And I want everyone watching to know, there's some people who are, posting messages, understandably so, that they feel bad that this child lost their father. But everyone you see sitting at this table right now has made a pledge. Actually, I made a pledge to John one-on-one when Teddy was born about what I would do for his son for the rest of our lives. And I think it was a few weeks before Teddy was born, I made a pledge to Lacey about where I would be and what I would do for that baby. Everyone at this table, some of us have kids, some of us don't. But on that day, all of us just gained a son. And all of us at this table are going to be that boy's father. And he's never going to be alone. And that's a result of the man John was to all of us. Because I don't know too many people in my life that if I died tomorrow would be sitting at a table the next day saying, I'm gonna step in and be like a father to that boy. One of them sitting right next to me right here. But I don't know if I have that many other people. And John has a room full of people that are willing to step up and do whatever it takes. That says something about the kind of man he was, the kind of friend he was. And that's what I wanted this to be about, to let everyone know the John outside the microphone, outside the podcast studio. And we're all committed to that today and every day. And that's our life now.
So Lacey, you're stuck with us.
Yeah. We're not going anywhere.
We're not that bad.
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, we found actually that letter that he wrote while we were, all four of us has pretty much been here the last couple of weeks, cleaning, helping Lacey and the family, and cleaning out the studio and putting everything in order. And we found that letter that he wanted to pretty much share, to the world, as we wanted us to do one last thing for him. And I knew it was going to be hard. So John loved to talk. John loved to talk. God knows. And the funny thing was that after a while, you love to hear his voice. Everybody here, we would talk to John almost every day. We had our different times with John. Some of us would be the morning.
I was the morning guy because I woke up the earliest.
Yeah. I think Suresh and Matt were the morning, and then me and Jonathan were the nighttime crew. And we spoke to John, probably each one of us, at least 30 minutes to sometimes up to 2 hours every single day.
Every day.
Every day. And
Twice a day sometimes.
sometimes twice a day.
Weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's on top of the fact that he would be on the podcast doing 1 or 2 shows every day talking. So we could all attest to that. He loved to talk. Yes, and phone calls in between. It's something that he was born to do. I truly believe that he was literally born to make this podcast and to talk to people and give everyone a chance that was on his show, a chance to tell their story.
Right.
Yep.
You know, however, it would help anyone that was listening and to show people that everybody has a story to tell, you know. And I think that was truly his passion at the end of the day, was to talk to people and find out who they were and what story they have to share with the world. And that's what he did. And then I think he was pretty freaking phenomenal at it. He was awesome. That's on the microphone, and off the microphone, he was an even better person, right? Well, he was a better person when you were part of his family.
Right.
Yeah.
He wasn't very nice. If you were not, he was an asshole. You know, but
You might be one of those 341 unread messages.
yes, yeah, exactly, absolutely,
But that's really what I think this podcast is about, is to share who John was.
absolutely, yeah,
You know, just,
absolutely.
Just not John Bartolo show, but who was John? Who's John Bartolo? You know, and what he meant to not only us, but to everybody else, and what he did, and kind of get this is a very emotional podcast.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Matt was saying in the green room before we even walked in here about all the stories we read on his Instagram about how many lives he actually touched.
It was incredible.
And it's completely incredible. And if you haven't gone on his Instagram page and read all of the tributes that everybody wrote, it's quite something else about how many lives he touched, and whether he was in your life for a one phone call or for longer than that, you know, he touched you in one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even one conversation, he'd touch your life or change your life in one conversation.
You either loved him or hate him after that one conversation.
Yeah, that's true too, depending on who you were.
You either, because I mean, I know a lot of people. He had that first conversation and things didn't go well because he probably hurt your feelings.
I would.
He was talking facts, but he might have hurt your feelings in that first conversation.
I would prep him when I was introducing him to somebody that I'm like, man, I really want this person to like you. Like, please be nice to them.
Yeah.
I would prep him. So I'd be like, hey, like my buddy Chad, I'm like, hey, he's coming out to do the video for the last UFC event. I'm like, I want you to meet him. I want you to be nice. I want him to like you, you know?
Yeah.
So I introduced him. He's like, yeah, cool. We're at Topgolf. So I introduced him like, hey, John, this is Chad. Chad's done all my video and photo for like the last decade, man. He's a true homie. Love this dude. And John looks at him and he's like, what? So you can click a camera? Like what?
That's typical.
I remember he met somebody once and they thought they were hot shit, and he asked him, he's like, so who have you worked for? And they rattled off some name, and he goes, okay. And he goes and he makes the phone call to that person, and he's like, hey, did you work with so-and-so? And they're like, for like, what, 5 minutes? Yeah. Like, he'd make the phone call. Then he'd come back and be like, so that's the biggest name that you worked with for 5 minutes? He'd check you right on the spot because of all the people he knew.
Yeah. You couldn't I mean, I can tell you this. you can't tell John you know somebody in the industry and not know them, and John will find out within 10, 15 minutes. He would make a text or a phone call, and he goes like, yeah, that guy lied straight to my face. He doesn't know shit.
Yeah.
I called this guy. Could you believe he tried to lie to me? Yeah, I came across that a couple times.
Yeah, I had a couple times when that happened too. At trade shows, somebody trying to impress him and be like, oh, yeah, well, last night I was having dinner with so-and-so. And John would be like, oh, yeah? And he'd call so-and-so.
Yeah.
Like, hey, come to the booth. I'm right here in booth this. And they'd come over and be like, hey, I'd like to introduce you to this person. They had no idea.
No idea. Absolutely.
He told me that story.
Yes. He's done that a couple times.
But as we talk about John off the podcast and what he loved, we got to bring up food.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Because John loved a good spread. He loved the chicken parm. And one thing, I mean, I've done, I don't know how many events that John's come to since I've been in the career, right?
Yeah.
But Topgolf's kind of my thing. That's where I throw the parties at. And I always did the food right. And that was the first thing he'd say every time he came to one of my events.
It's got to have a good spread.
And he'd give me a hug and be like, you did the food right. You get it. You get it. I like it.
Yeah.
It's good.
I went to our favorite Italian restaurant here in Vegas last night, and we sat in the same exact table that the last time that we ate there together, and it was hard knowing that I'm never gonna get that again. It's Allegro, by the way. He loved Allegro. Every time I came to Vegas, it was like, hey, we're going to go to Allegro. There was two places that John always loved in Vegas. And Allegro was one of them for the Italian. And then the other one was the Wynn buffet. He's like, we got to go to the Wynn buffet. We got to go to the Wynn buffet. I think all of us have so many stories with them that we're going to carry forever. And it's hard sometimes because I look at the pictures, and I look at the wall, and almost every fucking picture for the last 10 years. And if I wasn't in the picture with him, I either took the picture or I was in the same room with him when he took that picture. So it's a really hard thing to kind of comprehend. When someone's part of your life that close to you, it's hard to realize that they're not going to be there anymore.
You always want one more day.
Absolutely.
Picture.
Yeah, it's hard.
One more conversation.
One more phone call.
Yeah, the other day I was leaving the gym, and that was my time. Like I was telling you or John Oliver about it, that was my time to or I would call John. It was kind of about when he was waking up here. He always said, I'm moving around by 5:30. I'm up. I'm moving around. And
John didn't sleep.
Yeah, he just never slept. He never slept.
He'd be up to 2 a.m, wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, it was crazy. Never slept. And I came out of the gym. I got in the car, and it was muscle memory. I just picked up the phone, and I would just say, hey Siri, and I would, say call John Bartolo. And, Siri would always kick back calling John Bartolo iPhone, and he would always pick up. And he's never going to have that again. And I'm never going to see his name pop up again. And what I'm happy about is that when you have someone that close to you, I always picked up the phone when he called. Because when someone's like family, you always pick up the phone. So for everyone listening and watching this now, sometimes we all bullshit ourselves that we're too busy to pick up that phone call from someone in our lives that's important to us. But you're not. Pick up the phone. Because you don't know when it might be the last time that person ever calls you. I'm so glad that the last text message I sent to John was the crying, laughing, kind of sideways emoji because he was busting my balls about something, as always. And I'm so glad that emoji, it signified our friendship. We were always laughing. Poor Lacey. There was times we'd be late. It was late at night, and we're laughing. He's at the house laughing. I'm laughing on my end on the phone, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna wake her up. And we would just laugh. Oh my God, we'd laugh like little kids. And we would talk about Tony. We'd laugh, and I'm sure Tony and John would talk about me and laugh.
Oh, did we?
Make sure, if that's the lesson, if we're gonna walk away from this, just laugh. Make sure you enjoy that time with those people.
John knew that was one of my pet peeves. Was whenever I would text him or call him that he wouldn't answer or like respond to me, he knew I would get pissed. I get mad at him. So sometimes he wouldn't go anybody else, but he knew that if I texted him, I wanted a response, within minutes or at least an hour or something, He's like, hey, I'm busy, I'll call you back or whatever. But I always, the day that he passed, he actually, right before he met up with you, Jonathan, he FaceTimed me. I was actually in Orlando with a group called Geeks and Gamers that he was very fond of. He loved those guys, and they're all a phenomenal crew, great bunch of guys. And I was on my way to have dinner with them, and he ended up FaceTime me, asking me, of course, how things are going, because he was the one who introduced me to them. He was the one that made the connection because he knew that I was starting my own video game and all that stuff, and he wanted me to meet them and to get to know them. And we FaceTimed for about 2 or 3 minutes, and he never FaceTimes me. That's the funny thing about it. We never FaceTimed very often. We talked every day, but we didn't really FaceTime unless it was something like really important. And that day, for some reason, he FaceTimed me, so I was kind of happy about that. I was driving, and he was driving. We were both driving at the same time, and at least I was able to see him that day. One last time. I think we probably for about 2 or 3 minutes or so that we talked. And I kind of wish I would have talked to him a little bit longer. Obviously, you don't know. I know he was going to meet up with you. He was on the way there, Jonathan, to meet up with you there that day.
Yeah. We met up, and I drove out here for the fights. He invited me out, and I drove up, and we talked on the phone for a couple hours on the way out here and there. And we met up, go to the fights, and he was just happy, man. He was in his element,
oh yeah, he loved that. He loved
had a couple of his sponsors, a couple other people with us, and he was walking around just like he owned the place. Everybody knew him, and he was loving introducing us to everybody. I mean, we were right there on the floor, and somebody'd walk by and they'd be like, "Oh, John, what's up, man?" And he'd shake their hand, give him a hug, and be like, "Look, this is Jonathan, this is so and so."
Yeah.
And he was so happy. He was in his element, and then everything happened, and whatever, it was a really hard night, really hard week after that. Really hard to go on from here without those phone calls, like you're saying, without those conversations.
But he died doing what he loved.
He died doing what he loved.
He died doing what he loved.
And he was at the fights. He was having a good time, and it's heartbreaking, but he was happy.
I always tell everybody that I've talked to in the last 2 weeks that last day that he was alive, I was fortunate enough to spend the morning and afternoon with him, and he was same old John, happy as could be, had donuts in the studio. And I got that text that morning, I got donuts, come by. And I was like, don't worry, I'm coming. I planned on it. Well, I got donuts.
He told me as I'm driving up, he called me once just to specifically tell me, he's like, look, listen, we're going to 4 o'clock, so it's not dinner, it's not lunch. They got like weird hot dogs at the stadium. Try and grab a bite before you get there, because I know you and me were like,
Yeah.
We got to have good food. We're not doing one of those hot dogs at the stadium, you know? So try and pull over and get a hot dog or get something to eat before we get there. But
he always worried. He never wanted people to be hungry. And once again, I think that's part of how we grew up. We were talking about that. You know, when you grow up hungry as a kid and you get to the point where you make it, you don't ever want to be hungry. You don't want your friends to be hungry. You know, he always wanted to share. That's why he always enjoyed feeding people, making sure everyone was well fed, and that was a beautiful thing about him. He always cared about that. Those were, there were no little things with John. He saw all the details. That's why he always loved Jonathan here. He's like, Jonathan always does the food right. He's always got the good spread. He does it right. The Top Golf, he always does it right. And he was right. You do always do it right, So, but he noticed all those things. He was very, very, very strategic about those things, and he noticed them all. And I want to say something here, and I know we didn't talk about it earlier, but I think John, just to shift gears, would want me to say it. And I'm not going to name names because I know who they are. Throughout John's life, Tony and I seen it. There were some people who, for one reason or another, tried to hurt John. Tarnish his name, tarnish his credibility. Those of us who knew him closely know who they are. And we know, to those people who are most likely watching and listening, and I know John would want them to know, you didn't hurt him. You didn't win.
You fed it.
You only poured gas on the fire. And he went from a kitchen in Montana, and I saw the setup. I was there helping him pack. It was a crap microphone off of Amazon and his laptop on a folding table in his kitchen. And he built from there.
He built his empire.
What one of the most powerful men in the world said, this is the greatest podcast studio. Dana White, this is one of the greatest podcast studios I've ever been in. Not one of the greatest, the coolest podcast studio I've ever been in. So to those people, you know who you are. You know you tried to hurt him. You know you tried to disgrace his character, his name, talk shit. But in the end, you only helped him get to where he is today. So guess what? And I know John would want to say this. Fuck you, he won. He won. And he never let any of that bring him down, hurt him. A lot of people would take a knee. And he just used it to fuel what he grew today and what you're seeing all around us. So to all those people, you didn't win. He won.
Listen, he was Obi-Wan, right? When he got struck down, he just made him more powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to throw
And
a
I
little
can
Star
second
Wars in
that.
there.
I can second that.
Stop him.
I've been with John through all the lows,
God.
the lows, and then the highs, and the rumors that went on around it about him for some time they're all bullshit. And the company and the owners of that company that started those bullshit rumors, they're fucking garbage.
Other people involved with that,
Yeah.
and Tony
And-
both confronted them, and of course there was backpedaling involved, and when people face to face confront them, because we know John's character, and when we confronted them with some of the bullshit that was floating around, the story started to change, and it was a little bit of this, it was a little bit of that. So that's when people are full of shit, and people. There's
The
no
thing is that
ownership.
John would have never come out with this. And the reason we're doing it is so that you guys know the truth. That's why we're doing it for him, because he would have never.
No.
He would have never talked about it ever on live, because he just put it in his past and that was it.
100%. And one thing, he never thought about it. he never thought about you. It never took up space in his head.
It
wasn't worth it, and he knew that.
Yeah.
He just moved on and built what he built.
No, and I can tell you this, and from everyone listening, if you ever listen to some of my podcasts with John, I've done I don't know how many of them already, but we always talked about friends, right? True friends and loyalty and all that. And the truth is that when John went through that whole ordeal in his life, and it was a low in his life.
One of a few lows.
Yeah.
One of
a few. We saw who his true friends were. We saw some friends that we thought were our friends that are no longer part of our life. How they turned their back on John and on me, obviously, because if John was low, I was low. So we saw that. Don't think that we didn't see that you picked a fucking rifle sponsorship over friendship. That was seen. It was noted. And everyone listening, it's better to have 2 or 3 close friends that you know that no matter what would happen in your life are going to be there, than having 15, 20 friends that are all going to turn their back on you when shit hits the fan or when you have a low in your life and aren't going to be there. So always take that into consideration when you're picking your close friends or when you're picking people that you're going to surround yourself with. Always make sure you vet people properly, because we learned a lot. We learned a lot those 6 months, who our true friends were. Because if you're John's friend, you were my friend, right? Because we were up and down everywhere together. But we learned a lot. We learned who are the people that were worth something and who are the people that aren't worth anything. And we've come and we've hit a lot of walls. Me and John together hit a lot of walls throughout the years. We've gotten screwed over. They've stolen money from us. Trolls have said things, haters and this and that. And at the end of the day, John kept doing his own thing. And I'll tell you what, there was a lot of times where like John was a better man than me. He really was, because I would have handled a lot of things differently. And John handled it like a G. He really did. He didn't pay no mind to it. He's like, just let it be. It's not worth it. And I'm like, bro, John, don't allow that. He's like, nah, don't worry about it. And he did the right thing. The truth was, he did the right thing. I'm a little bit more violent than him. I'm more aggressive in my younger years. No, I'm a little better. But my younger years, I would have been like, well, I don't know, John. You gotta, but he did the right thing, And look, at the end of the day, he said it. Recently, he said it on a pod, on one of his posts, and we talked about this actually a couple times, probably in the last year to year and a half, when the podcast was doing really, really good, and he was just, slanging and banging, and doing shows every week. He's like, I wouldn't trade anything that I have been through, because it led me to right now, right here, nothing. And I told him, you're right. We're both where we need to be in life. And everything that we went through, and you went through, and I went through, and it was worth it at the end of the day. He knew all the hardships that I went through at work, and some of the things that I went through as well, and why I had to retire out and all that stuff. So, and it's definitely fulfilling to see him finally do what he worked so hard for. And I was there every step of the way, so I would know. You were going to say something. I think Jonathan was going to say something.
What you were just saying about John. He wouldn't trade anything that he's gone through because of where he's become, what he's built.
Yeah.
The friends that we've had, the Godfather mafia like mentality of a one phone call. I could get a phone call and be like, look, this person's dead. Don't talk to him anymore.
That's it.
That was all I needed. I didn't need a reason. You know? And it was the same way the other way around. John, we had that relationship where it was 100% all in.
Yeah.
You know?
I remember I had a sponsor years ago that screwed me over, and John was like, you know, he was still friends with them, and he was kind of like trying to be the mediator, you know. And I'm like, no, they're done. Like, that's it. I cut their heads. They're done. Like, I'm done. Like, you know. And he got me and he got me to talk to them again, right? He was like, listen, you know, just talk to him. You know, it's gonna be okay. He's gonna make it right. And and I remember sitting down with the owner of that company, and I was like, the only reason I'm at this table talking to you right now is because of John. That's it. I didn't even care. Yep. If John asked me to do something, okay, I got you.
100%.
It was going to help him some kind of way or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I knew something was going to be able to make him some money, you know, whatever. Okay, fuck it. I'll take the hit. You know, I didn't care at that point, you know, so, and I ended up getting back with the company and whatever. And I literally did that just because John asked me to, you know.
And of us sitting up here, you know, John really, over the last 6 years, was kind of not necessarily grooming me to be him, but I'm doing what he was doing 6 years ago.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what I'm doing with my life, you know.
Aaron Consulting.
Everything he was doing then, he taught me, and he introduced me to those people. And if I know you, and he didn't introduce me to you, it's because he introduced me to the person that introduced me to you. You know? And that's my livelihood now, and that's what I do. And as you were talking about, John, talking you off the ledge with that sponsor or whatever else it was, the same thing. Like, we'd talk about that, and we'd say we're in the business of building relationships.
100%.
If a bridge needs to be burnt, burn it. But there's no sense in wasting energy on the drama that ensues with anything else. If it needs to be burnt, just burn it and leave.
Yeah,
go.
absolutely.
You know? And I really like that. I mean, just like all of his life, it was like a no-nonsense approach. It's just like, okay, that bridge is gone. The end. Next page.
Next page, there it is.
That's part of who John was, though, and we've all known him a very long time.
Yeah.
And you know, we all have our experiences, and that's that trust,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the loyalty. It's just like, hey, this, you know, John would say, "You're dead to me."
Yeah.
We all have our own.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
can all quote John. in our
He's
own
dead
ways,
to me.
and,
Yep.
He's
you
dead
know,
to me.
Bro, he's done. The guy could use bro 1,000 different ways in
Yeah,
4
yeah.
sentences, you know.
But the way he said, bro,
Yeah.
that was when you know if he was joking, serious, angry.
Yeah.
Just the way it said, 3 different ways.
You know, the one thing, John's weakness and gentleness always came out. He was tough, and yeah, he had that East Boston Godfather-esque thing. I always saw his weakness when he was around kids and dogs. He was a mush. He would be hard, talking this, talking that, talking whatever. But anything involved like little kids or dogs, he turned into a completely different person. He was like a mush. And there were certain times where, like, we'd be on the phone. Obviously, we were on the phone for like an hour. So there would be interactions with my dog, and I'd be like, and the dog's annoying me, and I'm like, come on. I'm like, go lie down, whatever. And he's like, come on, take it easy. Why are you so hard on him? Give him a biscuit. Come on. And I'm like, man, this guy, he once again, I want people watching and listening to this to know about the side of John that you guys didn't see. And that was the side of John around little kids. Oh my God, he was just like a mush. And it was like, there's a story where he went to some family friend's house, and he noticed that the kids only had healthy cereals in the cabinet, and he declared that their parents were, in some way, shape, or form participating in child abuse, because they didn't have the sugar cereals there for the kids and treats for the kids. It was child abuse, and I'm not quite sure how it went, but I believe that John got in the car, went somewhere, and he went and got Fruity Pebbles and Cocoa Puffs or whatever, Count Chocula, and came back and was all right. And then he subsequently later for some event, holiday, birthday, whatever, sent all the mini boxes of sugary cereal cereals to the person's house, like a case of the mini boxes of cereal. And he always had that soft spot for kids. And whenever I was like, being hard in any situation, he'd be like, "Oh, relax, come on, give your little puppy a treat, take him for a walk, come on, he want." And I was like, man, this guy who acts hard as hell and like can be like as abrasive as like 60 grit sandpaper in a meeting with the CEO of some company, he had that soft spot in his heart. He really did, and I was like, man, I said, this guy's fronting a lot. This guy's fronting a lot because man, he had such an incredible soul.
Do you know how much he loved that goddamn dog?
Oh, Winnie Cooper.
He would spend
oh my
hour
goodness
talking about that. Nothing else.
Oh yeah.
That's it.
Oh my. And
Pictures.
every time I was on the phone with him, and he was with the dog, I would hear, "Come on, girl. Let's go, girl. Come on, girly. Come on, girl." And he was just so focused on the dog. And man, once again, I was like, this guy loves. I was like, and I know he, at first he would complain to me about it. I'm like, stop bullshitting me. You love this thing. And then of course the front faded very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
And then that's it. The dog was here in the studio with him. Was on the couch with him. He's driving around the car with him. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, Mr. I can't take this dog. Yeah, okay. So that was.
Dog could get away with murder.
Yeah, that
10
dog.
times over.
Yeah, that dog would rob a bank, and John would be like, "Oh, it was an accident." So man, he had such a big heart. I'm just sharing this because I know a lot of us here know, but a lot of people watching don't know. And
I think the majority of people don't know.
No,
John had a very close,
Yeah.
tight inner circle, and you guys listening and watching wherever, you invited John into your living room, your headphones or whatever, and hopefully we can just share another part of John that you didn't get to see.
Yeah, he always treated my kids like gold. I remember when I brought him in here the first time and they were running around like crazy, and John was so excited about it, and he looks at my oldest daughter and he goes, "I heard you like Frozen." And he goes, "Would you like to watch Frozen?" And she's all like scared, running away from him, and he puts on Frozen and she sits down all happy. He hands her a lollipop, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, what are you giving my kid candy for? She's already hyped up." Oh, it's not gonna hurt her.
Yeah.
She's gonna be fine.
Let the kid have it. A lot of people don't know, haven't seen two people in this room over the years. Rory is always kind of behind the keyboard there, and when John started this, let's say there was a little bit of a Jerry Maguire moment in one phase of his life where he kind of said, "Who's coming with me?" And one of the people that came with him was Rory, and not physically, but just kind of had his back, and supported him in the best way he could. And I don't know how much he shared with you, Rory, but he shared with me. How much you helped him,
How much
and
really
how much
appreciated
he
you.
appreciated what you did and set all this up and help make this what it is today. And also Marcy, he loved you like a little sister. He always talked about you. I don't know if there was a call we had where he's like, "We got to take care of Marcy. I just got off the phone with Matt. I just got off the phone with Scott. We got to take care of Marcy. You believed in him when no one else did. And he loved you for that. And I want you to know that we all heard it.
Yeah.
We all heard it. And I want to say thank you here in front of everyone for believing in my brother and believing what he was doing. A lot of people didn't believe what he was doing here. That's for sure. And you believed in him with your whole heart. And you were here for him. Literally, when he wasn't even here, you were here for him doing stuff. So thank you. I know he loved you. So thank you for that. Jeremy, he talked about you a lot. You helped him with a lot of things here. And there was times, as you know, Jeremy, where he didn't have a lot of people supporting him. And he spoke your name a lot, man. Thank you for helping him. I know you guys met a long time back. And when you guys got out here, when he came out here, you were able to connect a little bit closer. And he shared with me a lot of what you helped him out with in a lot of different situations. And so I want to say thank you, because once again, I don't know if he maybe expressed it to you. I'm sure you knew. But your kindness to him and your efforts to help this become all the guns on the wall and everything, that was this whole thing. That's what his vision was. And you helped that become a reality. Dave, another guy that always believed in him. You always believed in him. Yeah, I know you knew he was crazy. You said he was crazy.
I don't know how you dealt with him, man. It was tough, Dave. I'll give you that. I remember, shit. Me, you, and John had some conversations sometimes. Woo!
You knew he was crazy. He would call you crazy.
I was like, John. I was like, yo, chill, dog, chill. Dave was at that time you were going crazy. At that, like you were like stressed the hell out. I remember, man, you were super stressed out. It's like, oh my god, I don't know if we could do that, John. I was like, I don't know. It's like, don't worry about it. So I was like, yo,
yeah, it was crazy.
Dave ain't gonna make it.
No,
I told him that a couple times. I was like, yo, I don't think Dave's gonna make it, man. I don't think he's gonna make it.
There's one time he's like, I'm gonna have Dave write an article. I'm like, what? He's like, it's an article. It's gonna be about this. And I said, Dave's gonna write that. He's gonna write it. I'm gonna make him write it.
Did you ask Dave?
And I'm like, does Dave know he's gonna write that? You know, so, but, you know, you always stuck with him, man. You stuck with him. And, you know, that's the support you need if you're going to build something like this, you know. Just a quick shout out, our friend who's not in town yet, but was there for John during a tough time for him, Eric Navarro, owner of Breakthrough Clean.
Oh yeah.
Has always been good to John. You know, John did some work for them early on, and
we started with Breakthrough together.
Yeah, and you know, Eric, you know, to the end was always good to him. You know, John, he made sure John always had a credit card to throw a couple of meals on, and you know, when John was in that transition point, Eric was the first person to say, "Hey, I'm here." So a big shout out to Eric Navarro.
Eric was like probably one of our first major sponsors.
Yeah.
Me and John both. So, and then when John came to Miami, he also stayed at Eric's place for some time.
Yep.
Eric provided a roof over his head, and you know, and Eric's been a very, very good friend of ours for a very long time, and you know, huge shout out to him. He's always you know, we have boxes and boxes. He was as bad, if not worse than you, Matt.
Yeah, he's worse than that. Yeah. If you would trip over a Breakthrough Clean box of stuff,
or an Enforce box,
and fall into a box of Enforce lights.
Yeah. That's literally like, it's like when we were packing everything, I was like, bro, what?
Man, it's crazy.
So much stuff. It was like ridiculous. Yeah. But yeah, Eric's always been really good.
Really good.
We always had Breakthrough on the wall.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Another big, you know, I want to talk about John Oliver as well.
Oh God, yeah.
John Oliver was John's photographer and did some videography for him in the earlier years while he was still in New Hampshire and while he was in Montana, and then he would actually fly him out. He had a lot of love for John Oliver, a lot of love. So, you know, their family, their cousins, and he, you know, it was just, and I know John loves him to death. John Oliver loves John to death, you know, so just wanted to say, you know, you guys ever need any photography stuff, John Oliver still, I believe he still does photography.
Yeah, he does.
He's awesome at it, he really is, and he always supported John in anything John needed. It was John, I was like, okay, tell me when I need to be there, and I'm there, you know.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, go ahead.
I was just saying, we just got a comment from Dan Franny that I had to bring up. Never forget Boatgate.
Oh, Boatgate.
Oh,
God,
yeah.
that was so funny. That was so funny. Oh my goodness.
One of Tony's trainees were out there in Miami, and I'm the target guy at the time, right? So
Yeah.
Tony, I set up all the targets, get everything ready to go, and Tony just all day, where is John? Where is John and Suresh? Where did they go?
Yes.
What's going on?
Those scamming bitches.
Meanwhile,
Me and Jonathan were like in the heat, like sweating, dying from like 7 a.m. till like I don't even know till what time,
200%
setting it up. And this was one of the free law enforcement
free
courses,
law
right?
enforcement class, yeah.
This was a free law enforcement course that I've been putting on for years, and I remember like I was like, these guys came early, right? These sponsors came early to help with the prepping of this course. And what were they doing? What were they doing? What was Suresh and Eric Navarro doing?
we
What?
didn't know what the setup
What?
day was.
The setup what? What?
Eric invited us on the boat the following day after we showed up, and you apparently were
Eric invited them on the boat, getting nice sunshine, chilling, getting that nice wind in their face,
Music, cervezas.
Everything. The day of prep before a free law enforcement course. Well, me and Jonathan were humping, you know.
It was like 100 degrees with 100% humidity.
Yeah, it was like
so
bad. It was really bad. So that was the boat gate. And, now you guys know the story.
We showed up, and they were like, "Where were you?" We're like, "On the boat." It's like, "Oh, that's where you were."
That's where you were.
Boat
The
gate.
rest of the weekend, every time John saw Tony, he'd walk past and be like, Boatgate!
Yeah.
Oh, that was amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was quite amazing.
That was funny.
Yeah.
No regrets
Hilarious.
I remember also pushing a car into position that had no motor because it wouldn't start, so I had to push it by hand.
Good. At least you did something.
Yeah,
You did something.
I remember that.
You did something.
Another guy that was always good to John, Dave from Taurus.
Yes,
David from Taurus.
Yes.
You know, if you're
David is a good
listening,
friend of ours,
If
yes.
you're watching, David, another guy, another stand-up guy. John always talked so highly of you. You were always there for him. You always believed in him, and you were always there to help him out if he needed something. You know, get someone a gun, get someone this. People, you know, high-profile guests on the show. He would make a call to you. He would tell me. He'd tell me all the time.
Oh, man, David, listen, David has he's a huge heart, man.
Oh, man.
David is a phenomenal person. Taurus, on the other hand, they're fucking garbage. But David is great.
That's highly uncomfortable.
Yeah. David, I love you. Sorry I had to say that. But yeah, David,
very
you know.
solid friend to John, and
he was.
I know we're probably forgetting some people here. I know we have Ruben Alvarez here. He's one of the guys in the crew, and John looked at him like a little brother. And even till the very end, you know, John would talk to me about you, Ruben, and you know, like his dream for you was to get to that level where you were confident in yourself, building the business that he knew you could run. He knew you could run it. He knew you could be the person, and he didn't want you to. He wanted you to ignore all the noise, ignore what everyone else was doing, and he knew you could do it. And he literally looked at you like a little brother, and I think the thing you could do the most to honor John is to do that, man. Make him right. He knew you could. Don't make him be wrong. Make him right, and do what he knew you were meant to do.
There's a common theme here in the past hour and a half, however long we've been on, is, you know, all about John, and he saw the potential and the good, and he would push you and he would drive you to make you better. And like I said, he would lift everybody up, and he would give you the support, you know, all day long.
Yeah.
He wanted everyone else to succeed.
Yeah. Ruben, definitely, he's doing well. He just, he had his first actual pistol class, law enforcement pistol class recently, Paradox training. So he's on it, you know, and I've been on top of Ruben too. I forced him to get that LLC, and I forced him to do all that stuff, and he finally got it done. And it's hard being a law enforcement officer. It really is. Ruben's a full-time law enforcement officer. He's also full-time SWAT. And, when you're in that grind every day, it's really hard to run a business. I know, I should know, I did it for 2 years, so little by little, Ruben is a lot younger than I am. And, but the accomplishments that he's done in such a little time, John knew
it's incredible.
Yeah, John knew that he could do it. I know he could do it.
John didn't push you and expect things of you if he didn't truly believe in his heart you could do it. Because if he didn't believe in his heart you could do it, he didn't give you the freaking time of day. He wouldn't waste his time on you.
Yeah.
He believed in Tony from the get-go. He believed in me. Ruben, he believes in you. He believes Jonathan could really be the next John Bartolo when it comes to marketing and branding. He believed in Matt, obviously, with what Matt produced and has created with Inforce. It was in his heart. When he knew someone could be something or someone needed to meet someone, he just knew it, and he had it all worked out in his head how the path was going to go, and that
10 steps ahead.
Yeah, and it just always went that way, which was like the most uncanny thing. But he knew it before anyone involved in the equation knew it, and it was pretty incredible. And to the people watching, if you don't have a friend in your life like that, you really don't have a friend. You have to have people in your corner like that. That was the person John Bartolo was to everyone at the table, everyone in this room. And if you don't have someone in your life like that, I mean, I think you'll all agree, he kind of redefined what a friend is to us. Like, I had an idea of what a friend was before I met him, and then I realized, holy shit, these people aren't my friends. They're just kind of like around me.
They're acquaintances.
Yeah, they're acquaintances. Yeah, that's really all they are. This dude is a friend.
Yep.
This guy is real, and it was eye opening. It was really eye opening.
We're all just lucky to have the time we did.
Yeah.
Definitely wish I could have.
Guys, so we're Marcy, do you want to come on and say something?
Yeah, you've been so supportive and John's backbone. If you want,
we would like you. Yeah, you think you can? Yeah. Okay, come on, Marcy.
Yeah, you can.
Come, yeah. Sit.
everyone else already cried, so
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
You're gonna be good.
Might as well cry with us.
Right. And as a 3PO said earlier, he wanted you to win.
Yeah.
He wanted everybody to win.
Make sure you talk to the mic. Okay, you gotta talk close so they can get.
I got it.
You got it.
She knows the drill.
They heard that 1,000 times.
I know.
I don't know how many shows I did with John. It was pretty amazing seeing him just polish his skills over and over again. He could tell you the same story, but you'd still listen because there's something new to gather from it. So many times in the green room, I saw him school million-dollar businesses on what they were doing wrong. And they listened. They listened to every minute of it. And then they asked him if he could write it down and they could photograph it and explain it like they were 5. He had an uncanny... It was just... That was amazing to see. I do design and photography. He told me you're more than a photographer. You're a content builder. He just had a way of saying things that you would be like, well, fuck, he's right.
He builds you up.
He does. Most recently, I was super proud of a project I landed. I said, John, I got this much a month. Like, isn't that amazing? You're telling me I got to get monthly
Salary.
Yep.
He pushed you.
He did.
Pushed you
He
to be your
pushed me
best.
good. But I
did.
told him. He's like, not bad. You're worth more. I was like, God.
Yep, he
Go
did.
get it.
Okay, I appreciate you. I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
But just seeing what he had built. In the beginning, it was something I felt. I just did graphics. That's easy shit, right? Because I've been doing it 20 years. It doesn't take me long. 2 minutes. Here's graphic. So when he needed help, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help you. It doesn't take me long. something easy. But I didn't know the monster I had created just helping him out in that low time. He was fiercely loyal to me in a way that I've never felt before. Like you guys said, I have some really good close friends, but holy shit. He wasn't not going to be my friend. He gave me a really big compliment a few weeks ago. He said, you know, you remind me of myself. And I said, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm this quiet little girl that doesn't want to step on anybody's toes. He's like, no, you can't commit to anything. I was like, I've committed to my husband for over 10 years. I've done design for a long time, and I can't commit? He's like, no. You're willing to try everything, and you don't say no. I was like, okay. Thursday, before he passed, I was hanging out here at lunch. This will give you trouble, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Careful.
Go for it.
I was hanging out with him at lunch, waiting for some packages for a event that he told me I could plan. They came, and he showed up, and then he sat down on the couch instead of sitting behind his desk. I was like, well, this is different. And he sat down, and he had a heart-to-heart with me, telling me, you're more than just a content planner. You can do this on your own. And I think you do that for a little, and then maybe you're a marketing manager. I was like, you just blew my mind. Like, me? That conversation went on for over an hour, and there's something in my gut that just said, stay. Is that peace? Yeah, I get an hour lunch. I stayed 2 hours to talk because something in me said, you need to stay. God, am I so glad I did. God, am I glad I did. I just want, if there's one thing I can say, is listen to those feelings. They matter. If you're having a good conversation, fuck it. Fuck the consequences sometimes. You never know. He's a one of a kind, like they say, that he broke the mold. And something this past week has shown me, I hardly knew all you guys. I knew of you. He'd always talk like I know you guys. Oh yeah, Tony said blah blah. I was like, okay, I just pretend after a while that I knew all these names. I'd stop him if it mattered. I was like, I don't know who that is. Can I get his tissue? But this past week has shown me that I may not know you as well as I thought. But you're all my brothers too.
Absolutely.
And I'm very thankful for all the help you guys have had here. I may have gotten a little protective over the studio.
Rightfully.
Yeah, it's good.
I may have got a little short with Suresh one time when I didn't have a key. But I feel like it's mine.
It is yours.
And bringing this around to that note we found, tell people what I was doing here.
Yeah.
To Marcy and Rory and everybody that helped produce this show. This show was amazing. This podcast was amazing. The guest list was amazing. The most valuable thing that John created here was over 450 episodes that his son
We'll be able to watch.
gets to watch.
It's beautiful.
Gets to know his dad, gets to know his thoughts and feelings on everything he talked about.
Everything, yeah.
And that's content that lives forever for everybody listening. That's what John would always harp about. was a podcast was not only a podcast, but a podcast was a YouTube channel, was YouTube clips. You take the same things, you put them on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever, but it was stuff that lives forever. And that's what he's built for his son, and that's so cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, we've go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Off what you said, we can also share all the memories with Teddy. We're the closest.
Absolutely.
And we have some incredible stories. Some for when he's 18.
Quite a few.
Quite a few.
So it lives on. You know, John lives on through all of us.
Through everybody he touched.
Yeah.
Through everybody he touched. Guys, we've been on about 2 hours now. I know we could all go hours talking about John. And one last thing, each person, if you want to say one last thing before we go. Whatever you think, whatever's in your heart, one last, I guess one major thing that John contributed to you to make you who you are today. And then we'll end the show and hang up his headphones one last time. Jonathan, you start.
Man, the final thing I want to say is really his final act to me. I mean, this dude, he invited me on the show 10 times, right? I did the show one time. I'm not a camera-facing person typically, right? It's not my jam. But he invited me all the time. And you look at that guest list, man, like there's a really cool guest list of people he had on the show, and then me right there next to everybody else, you know. he put me on, and he didn't care because to him I was there, you know.
Yeah.
You were on that same level.
Yeah, and I would give him crap because I'd come in the studio and there were pictures of everybody, pictures of Dana White and pictures with Don, and pictures. Everybody was all over the walls, all the cool people. But I didn't have a picture, so I'd say, "Hey, John." One day, I'm gonna be cool enough. I'm gonna be cool enough to get on the wall, and as we're cleaning out the studio and getting his things together, right above his desk is that picture we took at SHOT Show, and I made it on the wall. You know, I made it on the wall that last time. He put it up right there by his desk. So, you know, he didn't get to show me himself, but I saw it there and made it on the wall. And that was hand in hand with him inviting me to the fights. You know, I didn't go to the fights with John. That wasn't.
But you went to the last one.
But I went to that one. He invited me.
The most important one.
And yeah, I watched John die. You know, had my arm around him, and I'm just back to the picture on the wall. I'm just grateful for everything because, like I said, if he didn't introduce me to you, he introduced me to the person that introduced me to you. He's always been so giving and a great friend. And, you know, I'm forever grateful. So, thank you, John.
Matt?
I don't know if there's a whole lot left to say.
There's a lot.
Except I miss you. I love you. And I did watch House of Gucci finally. You bothered me for 2 goddamn weeks to watch that fucking show. And I watched and it was good, so thank you.
Suresh?
I know there's a lot of people watching this right now, but I'm hoping one day, Teddy, when you're watching this, You're old enough if your mom lets you. I want you to know that your father was unlike any man any of us at this table have ever met. If you made it this far in this final episode, you have a pretty good idea of the kind of man he was, but I want to tell you directly. I've never met a man like him. And I don't think most of us will ever meet a man like him ever again. To say he was unique, to say he was one of a kind, is an understatement and doesn't do him justice. I want you to know that your dad was a good man. He was a loving man. And he was the hardest working man in the room. And even before you were born, he was doing everything he could to make sure you were going to have an incredible life. He loved your mother dearly. I could tell. I was in the car with him one night when he usually, Teddy, your dad drove like a grandma. But one night when something was up at your house and you were in your mom's belly, he drove faster than anyone I've ever driven with to get home to your mom and you. He loved her. She changed his life. Talk about people who believed in him. She believed in him. And your dad changed the lives of many, many people. The greatest thing you could do in your life, Teddy, is to carry that on. Change the lives of people around you. And put a dent in the world. Because that's what your father would want. That's what he did. Leave the world with everyone knowing the name Theodore Bartolo. It would make him proud.
Last thing. Bring it to you here.
I got a Raz Rory because it wouldn't be right. Reform school. We talked a lot about business. It was mostly business with us. If you're the smartest man in the room,
You're in
you're
the wrong
in the wrong
room.
room.
Talked about that a lot.
Yep. And do two things for somebody before you ever ask for one. I think that's the most important thing I've learned.
Let me see that. All right, guys. I'm not gonna make it long. I think I've cried enough and talked about most of the stuff. My last thing is John's favorite line, his favorite motto. Expect nothing and blame no one. John Bartolo, 1981 to 2022. May he rest in peace. This will be the last time that his ears will ever be on a podcast. And this will be the last show that John Bartolo show will ever see or hear. Goodbye.
And we're out.
We're out.